Get up to $7,500 off of a brand new car in 2022. Yes, you heard me right, and I'm dead serious. Save up to $7,500 on a brand new car. And there is one unlikely place that most Turo hosts aren't looking at to find these crazy savings on brand new cars, and that's exactly what I'm going to show you guys in this video. Now, we all know that the car market has been absolutely bonkers in this last year and a half. Car prices have been through the roof, used car prices being upwards of 43% above average, and it's just been crazy. And what most hosts, especially new hosts coming onto the platform, don't know about Turo is that you absolutely must, capitalize the word must, get a good deal on a car that you list on Turo. And here's what happens if you don't get a good deal. There have been numerous stories all over the internet about Turo hosts getting their cars repossessed. I have personally known a few host friends who have gotten their cars repossessed. And the reason is because they purchased vehicles at crazy high inflated prices between last year and early this year, which means their their cost of doing business was astronomical, and the Turo marketplace could not support their expenses on a monthly basis, especially those crazy high car payments. And eventually what ends up happening is you fall behind on those car payments. As the Turo marketplace goes through its seasons, you can't keep up with those expenses. You end up getting your cars repossessed. You end up having a failed business and bad credit. And this is something that you want to avoid at all costs. So I'm going to walk you through how you get a good deal, why it's so important, and exactly where you need to look to find literally dozens of makes and models that are up to $7,500 off brand new in 2022. So let's go. Getting into cars at a discounted price for the Turo market is extremely important. And if you didn't know this, now you know. But why do we have to get cars at a discounted price? The reason is because when you put a car on the Turo marketplace, it is going to depreciate much faster because of the higher utilization by your renters. Now, let's say on average, when you have your own personal car and you're the only one using it for personal reasons, you typically put on maybe 5,000 or 6,000 miles per year, sometimes a little bit higher. But when you list that same car on the Turo marketplace for rental purposes, it can easily accumulate at least 2 times the amount of miles. And now, of course, this is market dependent and it does vary based on where you're located, but that's a good kind of rule of thumb that we can use. Now, it's extremely important that you get cars that are roughly discounted somewhere between 15 to 25% off of MSRP. And the reason is so that that excessive depreciation that we experience on these vehicles when they're listed on Turo, we don't end up with negative equity if the car is discounted. Now, Turo's very own buyer's guide has stated that buying at a discount is critical to maximizing ROI. Our research has shown that buying a car at a discount is one of the most important factors in becoming profitable as a Turo host. Just a 15% discount on the purchase price could yield as much as 27% increase in 3-year net profit. Now, there is a very specific formula that you want to use to find the right price for the right car in the right market. And you can click on this card above for a video that I recently made walking you through this formula. So what's gone wrong with the car market that has led to deals disappearing in recent years? Before, you can walk onto the dealership lot, negotiate a deal, and walk away with a pretty decent deal on a car. And it wasn't so far-fetched to get 15% off of the MSRP or even at times 20, especially when dealers are really looking to push deals. But that's no longer the case today. It is absolutely absurd, some of the pricing that we're seeing on the market. We are seeing cars being marked up by 15 to 20%, which has really made it very difficult for the consumer to get into vehicles at a decent price, which is leading to consumers overspending. So what has led to all this? Now, some of you may have heard that there are all types of things contributing to this craziness in the market. Everything from semiconductor chip shortages, supply chain shortages, with the major world events that we're experiencing, like the war in Ukraine, it has led to a lot of manufacturing not running up to speed, or at least producing at the levels that they need. So this has led to supply chain shortages, not enough new cars ending up on dealership lots, leading to high demand over very low supply. Now, with all of that said, on top of that, we've added on the burden of high inflation. High inflation means cost of goods and services have gone up, leading to less disposable income and savings for the everyday you and me, right? So this has made it very difficult for people. Now, because inflation became high, that meant that there was also extremely high gas prices, which you guys are probably still noticing at the pump. Now, yes, gas prices have started to decline, but they're still relatively quite high. They've only dropped by about 17% from their peak levels. And if you've gone to the gas station, you know that gas prices are still at least double than what we're used to seeing. So it is still very tough out there, and the consumer is really experiencing the pain of that. Now, one of the things that this has led to is a huge increase in demand for electric vehicles. People have gotten so sick of paying for gas and it being so expensive that the adoption rate for electric vehicles has finally topped 5%. Now, that 5% number is so important because once a product reaches 5% adoption, that means it has reached that point of mass adoption, and it just goes parabolic from there. Meaning people are officially comfortable with it, they're educated about it, and they're going to continue to adopt it more and more over time. And so this is fantastic news when it comes to electric vehicles. Now, in my market research that I've been doing recently and that I've been talking about in my previous videos, I have noticed that EVs on the Turo platform are raking in way more trips than your average gas guzzler vehicle. If you look at the Teslas that are listed on the Turo marketplace, whether it's the Tesla Model 3, Model Y, Model S, Model X, they are getting way more average days booked in a month than, let's say, my Porsche Cayman. And that is very interesting to me because that tells us one thing, that people are being conscious about how they spend their money and they are looking for savings. And so that's what you really want to take a look at, is what do all of these patterns tell us? I recently made a video about the top performing electric vehicles, which you can catch right here by clicking on this link, and it's going to walk you through that. So you might be wondering, if the market is so crazy and everything is so expensive, supply chain shortages, and it's so difficult to replenish new car supply, how could all this craziness create the perfect storm to get a $7,500 discount, which can sometimes equate to 15 to 25% off of MSRP on new cars in 2022? Well, the answer is a 4-letter phrase, and that is electric vehicle tax credit. So you might be wondering, okay, so what's the catch? I have to get an EV in order to get this discount on cars. Well, we know from our research and our studies that electric vehicles are becoming more and more commonly adopted by the everyday person, and people are really seeking them out. But not only that, we've also seen that they are performing exceptionally well on Turo's platform. And this pattern is likely to continue as time goes on. People become more and more aware about being fuel efficient and also the savings that it leads to. So now I want to break down for you exactly how you can take advantage of this discount on electric vehicles as well as hybrid vehicles, which opens you up to literally dozens and dozens of makes and models that qualify for this in every range. So you can go as economical as a Nissan Leaf all the way up to a Rivian or a Mercedes-Benz EQS. So there's tons of savings to be had, and we're going to break down that list and exactly how the math works out. So let's take a look at a really good example here. So let's say we have a Nissan Leaf, which is one of Nissan's all-electric vehicles. The Nissan Leaf starts out at around $29,000 brand new. Now, of course, with any sort of tax credit or incentive that exists that comes from the government, there are, of course, certain qualifications that you want to meet. I am going to attach the link to all the details of this EV tax credit down in the description below so that you can read and make sure that you do qualify, but most people do. So in the example of the Nissan Leaf, you purchase that vehicle for $29,000. When tax time rolls around, you get to qualify for a $7,500 tax credit, which effectively brings down the cost of that Nissan Leaf down to $21,500. Now, from our calculator here, you can see that that is a savings of almost 26% off of MSRP on the Nissan Leaf, which is absolutely massive and incredible to get in a market like this. So this is how you can take something like a tax incentive on electric vehicles and hybrids to help bring down that price of a vehicle from MSRP, which would make it the perfect fit for a marketplace like Turo. Now, of course, I have to emphasize that not all cars are a fit for the Turo marketplace. So you always want to do that research in your area and figure out what's the best car and how to get the best price. If you want to learn more about that, you can check out my website, powerhost.club, where I have a full course that is going to walk you through exactly how to do that and how to make the best decision. Now, like I mentioned, there are dozens and dozens of these cars, but what's important to note is that there is actually a new tax bill that is going into law very soon. In fact, it's set to go into effect this week after it gets signed in the House. Now, what that means is you have to read the details of the existing EV tax credit that is available and then compare it against what's about to come out that is going to take into effect 2023. The reason for that is that the government is changing qualifications, and certain cars that you see on this list now may not be eligible in the next tax bill. So what's important is that if you are looking to get started and you want to find a car at a good deal, but you can't find it in your standard car market like we see at our local dealerships, you want to go through this list, see which car makes the most sense for your marketplace, and then decide, will it qualify this year or will you get better tax incentives next year? So this is really important and why I bring this up now. Now, when the new EV bill passes, which is part of the Inflation Reduction Act, I'm going to do a follow-up video kind of walking you guys through exactly what the difference in qualifications and which cars are no longer eligible. So for example, we already know that they are going to move up the limits on which cars qualify based off of MSRP. Now, for your standard vehicles, they are going to limit that MSRP to $55,000. And for your SUVs, it's going to be up to $80,000, and anything above that will no longer qualify for those tax credits in 2023. So let's say, for example, you're looking to grab yourself a Rivian truck, right? Right now in 2022, Rivian still qualifies for that $7,500 tax credit. However, if the new Inflation Reduction Act passes this week, next year, they may no longer qualify for that tax credit. But in other good news, if the Inflation Reduction Act does in fact pass, it is going to remove certain limitations that some brands are already experiencing. So for example, right now, Teslas no longer qualify for electric vehicle tax credits because Tesla has already sold over 200,000 units of their vehicles. And that also goes for other brands like Toyota. Now, in the new Inflation Reduction Act, the government is actually going to lift those restrictions restrictions and probably have it to an unlimited amount of number of units sold, which means Teslas once more become eligible for that tax credit. Now, for me personally, I'm looking to get into a Tesla, so I'm really waiting to find out if this new bill is going to pass. And if it does, then for me, it would make more sense to wait till next year so that I can take advantage of that $7,500 tax credit. So this is why I wanted to bring this information to you guys now, because I know many of you guys are looking to get started. So you really want to weigh out the pros and cons of when it makes sense to take advantage of this tax credit. So it's very important, and also I cannot emphasize it enough. You want to make sure that if you are getting a car for the Turo marketplace, that you get it at a discounted price in order to make up for the excessive depreciation. That way, you don't end up upside down on your car loans, which is a horrible financial position to be in. You don't want to get stuck with that type of liability. Now, everything that I've mentioned in this video, I am going to put the links with the full resources of this information down in the description below. I would love to know what you guys think about listing electric vehicles on the Turo platform, EV or hybrid, and if you think that that is going to be the future of Turo. I think, is it possible that Turo goes all EV by 2030? Quite possibly. So I look forward to talking to you guys down in the comment section below. I hope you've enjoyed today's video, and if you have, be sure to hit that like button and do subscribe for weekly videos. Thanks so much, guys, and talk soon.